This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. I've got you a present.
Oh yeah, it's a big box.
It is. It's what you asked for.
Is it a Titan?
2 Titans.
2 Titans?
It's heavy.
Heavy?
Yeah.
It should be, it's got 2 Titans in it.
I'm not looking forward to building them.
You can tell it's official.
Yeah.
Wow. Sealed one.
Best packaging from Games Workshop.
Best packaging ever. 2 Titans, can't wait.
You ungrateful sod. So, Games Workshop don't do Epic anymore, but they do Titanicus. So I decided to get the models that I could get from Games Workshop.
Tell you what, Luke, I'm liking this new lens.
Are you?
Yeah.
My reasons for doing this is 1, they're very accessible to a lot of people, and 2, if I ever decide to get into Titanicus, I'm sort of building an army as well.
Making much progress with that, Luke?
Got more done than Midwinter Minis has. Why? 3 pieces for something this big.
You're very angry about it.
I hate building models.
Are we going to get all this done in one video?
Yeah.
I thought Titans took like 10 videos to put one leg together.
Don't call me guy. They are very intricate models and they are very lovely. Now, I am doing the scaling of these models by eye, and I found some epic-y type models off Thingiverse. Now, I'm upscaling rather than downscaling because I want the proportions to be a bit exaggerated, because the smaller they are, the more delicate they become. So going up from already small scale models is better. I settle on the one in the middle, which is around 12mm. And I keep these as like a base now. Now I know that I use them models at 180% upscaled from the 8mm models. And then I use them to eyeball all the models for the armies that I need. The printer that I'm going to be using for this is the Anycubic Photon M3. It's a very affordable printer and it's very capable of printing small models. Now while we're printing this army, let me tell you about this video's sponsor. I've been using HelloFresh now for coming up 4 years. I absolutely love it. Convenience is king, and when it comes to preparing meals when you've both got busy lifestyles, this is just pick your meals the week before and they show up pre-packaged with all the ingredients in that you need. The best thing about it is, as well as if you've got any fussy eaters in the families or vegetarians, you can change out the protein and put in a vegetarian option. And with over 55 recipes, it's hard to get bored of what you're ordering. The one thing that we really like about it, because we're both a busy family, and me and my partner, sometimes when we go away for the weekend, we change the address and we get delivered on as holiday, so we don't have to do a big shop before we go away. And this is what we like about HelloFresh. It's very flexible, it fits all lifestyles and family sizes. You don't have to sign up for a month, you can sign on a week-by-week basis, and if your appetite changes, you can change the menus or change the menus slightly to fit your dietary needs. I absolutely love this, and I'm sure you will too. Use my link and a code in the description below to get your 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. So once they're all printed, we get them cleaned up and ready for painting. Now, I'd already sort of test painted my models, but Josh hadn't painted any like this before. So he went in with a completely different approach that I did.
Now, anyone that knows me and knows my channel knows that I absolutely love painting my Salamander chapter, but for these, I wanted to try something a little bit different, so I decided to go with one of the Turbo Dork paints that I've been sent and try this for an Alpha Legion colour scheme, because I thought it'd look really, really cool with the green to blue colour shift. I gave the models a quick zenithal prime from black to white, and then applied the colour shift paint over the tops of all the models, Once that was dry, I went in and picked out all the guns, the shoulder trim with blacks and with silvers. I added some red eyes as well because I was feeling very adventurous, and that was it done. It took me a day to paint up the entire army, and for a small scale, I'm pretty happy with how these look.
My approach to painting small models like this is make it as easy and as simple as possible. I know I said I would never use contrast and speed paints again, but that's when I'm talking about large models. On small models like this, it's surprising what you can do with just a couple of contrast paints or speed paints. I'm using Black Templar on the bodies, and I'm using Blood Angel Red on the weapons, and a Sharpie for the silver. If I was a bit more precise with my brushwork, I would have even left the shoulder pads white, but I had to go in there and chuck a bit of white on there from Pro Acryl, which covers in 1 to 2 coats anyway, so it's not much of a big job. And then just slather on an all-over wash of Nuln Oil. Basing, I'm using pennies because they're half the size of a 32mm base, so that works for the rules and base sizing. And then I'm just dipping in Fields of New Zealand base ready for a very quick finish on the models. Once they're all painted up, they look absolutely amazing. And to say it took me a day to paint my army, I'm absolutely happy with how they look. And with them being just that little bit smaller, you can get away with little mistakes. And this is a 5,000 point army. I'd never be able to paint a 5,000 point army in a day if it was going to be the standard 32mm scale. But look at that, 2 full armies in a day between me and Josh. Now the terrain, I just upscaled this from epic scale up to the size of the model that I was happy with. It ended up being about 250% did the terrain, but it printed out on a resin printer fine. But there is loads of MDF options out there as well, so if you don't have a 3D printer, there's plenty of options for terrain out there on the market for cheap. Now for basing these, I'm using foam board because it's what I've got laying around, and the idea is I can use this on a mat or whatever, but I do want to add some extra details. These wooden letters from the works or the range, wherever I got them from, are absolutely brilliant for being a child, or making awesome tiles for the bases of the buildings.
You think you're funny?
I can't find a tea.
It's in your cup.
Others didn't find it as funny as we did. With it being foam board, it has got a paper top, so you can use super glue for sticking these down for speed. I had no idea how these were going to look, but they do come out really well in the end, which you'll see later on in the video. I wanted them overlapping a little bit as if the base is like a sort of foundation, so it doesn't look too disjointing lifted off the board, but it's a simple just to clip some damaged tiles off there, so there's some slight overhang, and we'll detail this a little bit more later on. This stuff comes together very quickly, and with a bit of fast dry basing glue all over the model, and then dipping it in some Grimdark City rubble just for that extra coarseness in between the tiles and around the front to build it up like it's residual rubble around the ruins. And it just gives a nice modular piece of terrain effect for very little work. And then we just sat and repeated this entire process over all of them. Now I'm working very methodically with this because we're working on a board and everything all at the same time, so I give these a good 2 or 3 coats with a primer, and what this does is it just locks all the stones and everything in and gives everything a good solid coat for when Josh comes to paint these later. Now the picture frame gaming table that I did that's 2x1, it's the perfect half-size table. Now what fits in there is the tiles from Games Workshop. They're cut quite easily with a Dremel, and 1.5 tiles fit in this frame very well. What this gives you is a very solid picture frame, so I just spray it black and I fit them in there. And to hide the join, I just use a bit of filler just to get rid of the join and the big dip out of that second tile that I had. But this does add a hell of a lot more rigidity to the frame, and it makes it far more secure. You could do this with a piece of wood, but I had these spare, so I thought I'd just use them.
Now that the terrain is all primed, it's time for me to get cracking with the airbrush and get it painted up ready for the table. With this board being desert themed, we knew that these wanted to be desert ruins, and as such there'd be lots of sort of creams and browns, but I wanted to add a splash of colour, and we decided to do that on the tiles on the board. So to start with, I'm going around and painting them all in a white. I'm using the airbrush so you get that nice fade effect from the bright white in the centre of each tile. It's fading out to the edges. It just helps to define the tiles a little bit easier rather than having to rely just on a wash later on. As you can tell, Luke is filming me at this point, and he is also very excited about the new lens that we got. Once he'd finished messing about, I shook up some turquoise paint, ready to start putting that through the airbrush and alternating between white and turquoise tiles on the floor of the ruins, just to add a nice pop of colour. With the colour of the tiles down, it was time to paint up the rest of the ruins. This was nice and easy. We used like a reddy brown for the base coat, and then we used like an off cream, like burny colour for the top highlight on all the buildings and rubble. Once both of these were down, we took some streaking grime, and this is literally just to add some grime, to add some recess definition. We sprayed this all on with the airbrush because it's a lot faster. You can put it on with a brush without any issues, but we wanted to get this done nice and quick. And then once it was all on and set, we'll go back in with some clean white spirits and dab that around using brushes, using some kitchen towel or blue roll, and just dab that around. It adds loads of texture, it adds loads of grime to the walls, to the floor, and adds a bit of variety so that everything's not just brown or completely clean.
Now once they dried off, I just added a bit more fast dry basing glue around the edges and just in some areas, and then I added the same base ready that I put on the gaming table, which was tropical beach and desert sand and stone mixed together, and that just helps it tie into the board better. And it's done. What I love about this is I like having massive games. But I don't mean massive games like playing Epic on a 6x4 or playing large apocalypse games on a massive 8x4 or even bigger tables. I like playing the games that I like playing on a coffee table, on a 2x3 table. And if I wanted to go even bigger, I could put two of these together and play on a 6x2. So you can get that full apocalypse feel to your games. And you've not spent absolutely thousands on your models, you're having the same game experience just in a lot smaller space. What do you think about this? I know people out there are going to be like, well, why don't you just play Epic? The problem is with Epic, it's a large scale game on a large table. This is playing 40k or one-page rules on a small table in a smaller scale. I'm not about playing big games on big tables. It is fun, but if I can play and get the same feeling of the games I enjoy playing, but a board game sized, that's far more accessible for me. And the fact that you can pack it all down and get two armies and the terrain into a little box like this that just fits onto a Kallax unit shelf, so you've still got rooms for your books, your board fits up on a wall, and it doesn't look like a gaming table. This is what wargaming is to me. It's something that you can hide away and it not dominate your house. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you want to support the channel, don't forget to check out my shop at geekgamingscenics.co.uk below.